Deepwoken is undoubtedly one of the best games on Roblox. I will not stop glazing it. It is probably best in terms of gameplay and design. But the thing is, most games on Roblox aren't that good, so the bar really isn't that high. At least 90% of all games currently played on Roblox are going to be like simulator games, or quote-unquote games like Souls RNG. But that's only to be really expected, as majority of Roblox's player base is likely under the age of 13 years old. But anyways, to the point I wanted to make here, is Deepwoken really all that special? For a game that you could say was heavily inspired by the Souls-like franchise, it really doesn't feel like there is that much trial and error involved in the gameplay. The bosses in Deepwoken, while they are there, won't take most players more than 3 or 4 attempts to beat it pretty much every time going forward. I'd say that the hardest part of every boss is actually just getting to the boss. Ferryman and Primadon, both on separate islands, right? Ferryman you'll probably never have heard of unless someone pointed it out to you. Duke and Maestro both have certain requirements or quests that need to be fulfilled, right? Those could take at least like an hour each. And Chaser and Etheron are both in Layer 2. And that's its own separate thing. Not to mention the entire progression you'll have had to go through to even get a chance to fight them, right? Speaking of Layer 2, most people who have cleared it will likely say that it's too easy. I'm one of those people, right? For instance, the only time I ever wipe or light hook is due to me getting jumped by bounders or getting ABA air comboed by the spear guards in Etheron's run segment. The main reason for this is because of my lack of experience in fighting these enemies, as they do not show up anywhere besides Diluvian, but you know, before that was a thing. But also because of the lack of incentive to fight them, ever, in Layer 2. Deepwoken tried to remedy this by introducing the light hook, which in hindsight is a fix that feels like it was slapped on at the very last minute. Yes, it does work for beginners, letting them learn and explore while still punishing them with each failure. However, as we start to get into more experienced players, it feels more like the game is just holding your hand on something that is pretty easy to you at that point. And bringing it back to the zero incentive to fight enemies, right? Apart from one whole Bonekeeper, the only thing you ever have to fight are the bosses. Imagine an obby that is 90% a straight line with slight bumps, right? And at the very end is a difficult part that you can't mess up or you'll get sent all the way back to the start. Would you rather each time have to walk all the way back to the hard part, or would you rather just get straight back to the difficult part every time? This is exactly what Layer 2 feels like right now. You have to walk through 6 to 8 minutes of practically nothing just to get to a boss. Layer 2 could fix this by making more locked interactions like the Bonekeeper, or even having a chase segment. There's a lot of things that games have done in the past to make areas feel less empty. This would not only teach players how to fight the mobs, but also make it feel more rewarding just for getting to the boss. Speaking of the Layer 2 bosses, almost never have I ever wiped to Chaser or Etheron. Apart from the few times I fought Chaser, maybe I light hooked once or twice. Although I had beaten Etheron as a solo player first attempt, and that's not a flex. The reason for this is due to another issue that the game faces, which I think is kind of like the main issue with Deepwoken. And that's the permadeath system and the poorly implemented nature of it. I already made a video on this topic, but to put it bluntly, if a player wipes from a boss, they may have not even had a chance to learn anything. And on top of this, they are now set back an entire progression's worth of time to even attempt the boss again. So what do they do to make this not happen? They make the bosses easier. Alright, that's why Etheron, in my opinion, is easier than Chaser. There is a lot more factors that go into this problem, but that's the most basic idea from what I've gathered and what I can explain to you without making the video like 30 minutes long. One other thing I wanted to add about bosses is that there really isn't that many. Verse 1 had 3 bosses, Verse 2 added 2 more, and recently we got Maestro. That's only 6 bosses in total. No, I'm not going to include Kaido, let's be real. So on top of that, the practically pushover bosses, such a small amount makes the game feel pretty empty in retrospect. Although to be fair, Deepwoken does make up for this fact with the amount of mobs in-game, which to be honest with you, took me a lot more time than any boss in the game. I spent probably around 60 wipes worth of time learning Trial 1 alone, which set me up for the entire rest of the game pretty much. I really wish that more of the game could be like this. The main reason that Trial 1 works so well is because there's such a small setback every time you lose. You don't have to wait like another 20 hours just by progging a build, and when you do finally beat it, instead of a crazy weapon or a schematic, you get knowledge on how to beat those mobs, and that knowledge will pretty much aid you with every other mob. Anyways, that's all I have to say today. If you agree with me or don't, that's okay. You can leave a comment and it'll make me happy. I'm very curious to see other opinions on this matter. Anyways, thank you to my members, Iced, Ethan Redon, and as always, Jim. I hope you have a good day. If you want to do me a favor, you can sub, you can like, you can become a member. It's all in the description. Anyways, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.